Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone can't help it, Rick.
What's that?
I can't help it.
I know. That's why I like you.
Rick, just as the broadcast was starting, I was talking with Tom, our engineer, and I was just revisiting how I was on the tractor yesterday doing tractor therapy, going round and round in circles, and with the earplugs in, and I hear the drone of the engine. That's pretty much all I hear, and I can do my thinking when I'm on the tractor. And the thing that I came up with was that none of us, at USA Prepares takes direction very well. I mean, we really don't take direction very well. And I was just kind of reliving that thought that I had on the tractor with our engineer Tom. And he said, 15 seconds, we go live. And I said, like, what's that mean? Do we have to? So there I was. I wasn't taking direction very well.
Oh, well, listen to you. I have a new website that I found it's called aircraft.org. It's all happening around me. I am watching how everybody is getting depressed, angry, uptight, and somehow off-center. Everybody is off-center. And I don't know why, other than minor presses of banks, of money, of food going up. I don't know. Have you noticed how much food is at Safeway or things like that? I remember they had their 50-cent donuts are now 69 cents. I remember they had their $5 Fridays. It's now $6 Fridays. Have you know? And Hagen is in a $1 billion lawsuit against Albertson because of trying to control our food and food prices. And it made our front pages of our local paper yesterday. And so it's happening around us, and it's having reverberations in all of our behavior, driving, road rage, and the way we treat each other and ourselves now. Everybody's in a press.
Rick, I totally agree with you, and I've noticed this too. And at the meetup on Monday that we just had a few days ago, I said to the meetup group, I was thinking about the drive over in my truck to the meetup at Jimmy's Egg, and I thought, I can't believe it. I was waiting to make a turn, and all these cars are in the distance. And I'm thinking, I'll wait for them to go past me, and then they turn. What I'm saying is, they weren't using their turn signals, and it sure would have been a lot more polite
like that. Yes,
if they used their turn signals, because they're holding me up, and I'm being polite and waiting for them, and I don't have to wait for them.
Signals of how their behavior in driving. They don't care.
Yeah, that's one thing, and the other thing is I'm noticing trailers and trucks with stuff in the back beds of the trucks that, without a tailgate, not tied down, that could just fly off the road and land right in front of me or whoever's behind these trucks. I've noticed trailers with cargo not tied down, and I really don't, as a libertarian, a type-minded person, actually, here's what I should say. My belief is that government should be tiny. I mean, just the absolute minimum. But one thing I wish the cops would do is put their radar guns down, and when they see loads that are poorly secured on trucks and trailers, that they would stop those guys, those operators of those vehicles, and say, look, this is a dangerous thing. This item that you don't have strapped down without a tailgate can go flying out and land in somebody's lap and kill them and everybody behind them that runs into the back of them. That's one thing I think would be kind of nice. That would be like public safety, the real public safety. But what I'm noticing is that we are less friendly, less polite, more hostile, more offensive, more ready to blare the horn for someone who doesn't start at the nanosecond that the light turns green. So if someone's behind you and the light turns green and you just start to step on the accelerator, if you haven't launched by the time the light is green, they're angry. And it's happening more and more. And that's what I'm seeing. I don't like it.
Yeah. It's, and there's other things going on. For example, I don't know if everybody is beginning to notice how much more intensive chemtrails have become. But it's like an Air Auschwitz movie. It's like we're being gassed because there are too many people in the world. And why has nobody from our government, senators, congressmen, whatever, talking about it and explaining to the public what it is and what it is not? Why? Well, that's a good question. Let's figure out what would be some of the reasons why they're not talking about it. I'm talking about even the statesmen, the ones that you voted for, that you're proud of, and that you like. Why are none of these people? And why are the Democrats, not the Democrats, excuse me, yes, the Democrats for this treaty in Iraq and Iran? Well, let's talk about that. How about pork barrel kickbacks and the money that they make off of war from having this thing go out of control? There's other things going on here that nobody's talking about and need to be said. Even if they're not true, what's really going on? And why are they doing it? Now, I just posted something about the sun heating up our galaxy. It's not about SUVs and carbon emissions that is causing our global warming. There's something else seriously affecting all of the planets. Okay? Enter Planet X, 7X, and Nibiru, or whatever way you want to pronounce it. And I can tell you that I don't know, and I'm pretty smart. Now, if I don't know, and I can't figure it out, and I've been working at this for several years, and still do not know what's really in this geoengineering chemtrails, what would that suggest to you? Covertness? Absolutely. Okay, so I saw a report about coal ash and fly ash. And fly ash has radium-226 and 228. And there it is as a possible vector for why we're getting RADCON level alerts. It's from the geoengineering. And Fukushima is a secondary addition to that that has toxically poisoned our oceans. And nobody is talking about it. Not really. Why?
Well, except us, right? I mean, we're talking about it.
Yes, but I'm a nobody in a little tiny place in Grants Pass as collateral damage. And at one point, military used to think of me as a treasure. And now I'm just expendable like the rest of us. It isn't about intelligence anymore. It's about somebody in Washington, D.C. that is making decisions for me for my own good. And that is not right when they're not as intelligent as me. How does that work that someone can preempt my rights as an intelligent individual because they're doing it for my own good?
I totally agree. Well, yes, they have declared war on us, and it's not just that, Rick. It's for your own good. They're not going to tell you what's in your food. For your own good, they're going to allow chemicals to be put in.
It's terrible, and the whole thing is about money and lying, and that's what they all are. They're liars, and they are lying to themselves even before they started lying to us. And so, where can that go with the evolution and the? Now, my Sifu, my teacher, my man that I felt was more aware than me, said to me once, said to a group of us once, when he'd been asked if aliens are real, he said, "It doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do about it anyway. What you can do is meditate." Now, that's a perfect response because I don't feel there's anything I'm going to be able to do about this personally. And while I will say no, like when the Borg would say to me, resistance is futile, where do you go with that? Over my dead body. Okay, that'll happen.
Rick, you know, you bring up a whole bunch of points. Let me just address some of them. At the meetup on Monday, I mentioned people are more aggressive, and I asked if is it just me, or are they just pulling out in front of me and not using their signals in front of me? Is it just like around me? And the answer was no. It's increasing at an increasing level. That's one thing. Now, we also talked about the individual greed in the me first, which is something that you're talking about with these politicians. What's with these guys? You know, don't they have families? Well, in the 1950s, President Eisenhower built a bunker in West Virginia, and it's called the Greenbrier Hotel. Sam Snead was brought on board to design the golf course, so it looks like a great destination. And I was talking about this at the meetup on Monday. And I said that I noticed this because I was on Interstate 64 in West Virginia, and you could drive 120 miles an hour. It's like the Autobahn in the United States. In this section, when you get close to the Greenbrier, the road is banked, and you could fly down the road at 120 miles an hour. You could take the exit ramps really, really quickly because they're banked and they're wide enough to trailer a tank through the ramps. There was a parking lot that you could land a C-5 aircraft on. There's a rail line across the interstate, directly across the interstate from the Greenbrier Hotel, and it has an underground bunker. And I noticed this because I saw this huge satellite antenna there. Huge. I don't think it's 90 feet in diameter, but it's probably pretty close. And then I saw the smokestack where they have a power generation plant, all to power this underground bunker. When we come back, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It's now in the public domain, but I'll tell you about it and how it links to the individual greed of these Congress thugs. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and if you'd like to go to his new website, DocRAM, DocRAM, DocRAM as in Dr. Richard Allen Miller.com, DocRAM.com. So, Rick, I was on traveling on Interstate 64 in West Virginia, and so off to the side I saw this huge satellite antenna, of which there were only a few in the world at the time. This was in very, very early 1990. And I saw this smokestack. And I thought, wow, this is in the middle of nowhere, and there's this great big parking lot where you can land a C-5, and there's a rail line, and there's this great big hotel. So I decided to investigate it. And at the time we had a van, a minivan. It was a Ford Aerostar, the extended minivan. I had the whole family in it. And I decided to find the blast doors to this bunker. And so the children were in the back, and Mrs. Finelli was in the front, and I was getting really close to the blast doors. And this guy jumped out of nowhere in front of me and stopped me. It's like, where are you going? And I said, McDonald's is this way, right? Straight ahead? It's like...
Fast on your feet, Vinny.
And he told me to take a hiking turn around. But so this Greenbrier Hotel has several entrances. They've got 25-ton blast doors. They have decontamination chambers, 18 dormitories. They have a power plant with a water purification system. They've got 25,000-gallon water storage tanks, 3 of them. They've got 3 14,000-gallon diesel storage tanks. They've got a communications area, television production, and audio recording equipment and booths. They've got a clinic with 12 hospital beds, medical, dental, and operating rooms. They've got a laboratory, a pharmacy, intensive care unit, cafeteria, and they've got meeting rooms to house the Senate and the governor's hall and so forth. So anyway, so they've got this thing, but it's not big enough for the families of these Congress critters. So, imagine a typical family, let's say a husband, let's say a wife, let's say, a couple children, and then maybe the mother and father of the parents, and then, then maybe some outlaws and some in-laws. Well, none of those guys are going to this Greenbrier that was built as a bunker for the government. Only the Congress, and some other employees that could actually make things happen. The bottom line is these Congress thugs would only be leaving their families to fend for themselves. The point is that you're talking about how come nobody's talking about the chemtrails and the poisoning of the planet and the geoengineering and the toxins and the deaths and the cancers, and how come nobody's talking about it? Well, these guys, these Congress thugs, would be leaving their loved ones behind. Honey, it's okay. Listen, after it's all over and after the big event, the bombing, the nuclear destruction, the mutual destruction, once that's all over, I'll come out and, when the smoke clears and the radiation's gone, and I'll come out and check and see how you and the children are doing. I mean, that's what these greedy, individually concerned, egocentric Congress thugs are up to. They'd even leave their families behind. So if you look at it that way, why would they tell us if they're poisoning us? Why would they? And you can look at the story of driving on the Beltway, traveling on that Beltway around Washington, D.C., and being in a traffic jam and thinking, what would a Congress critter be thinking if he was stuck in that traffic jam? The answer is, who are these people in my way? Who do they think they are holding me up as a Congress thug? I've got important work to do. That's what I'm talking about. These guys are above all of us, at least in their own puny little minds.
It's like in that movie, The Day After Tomorrow, with that guy in Congress making decisions for everybody because the president isn't present.
They're not that smart. These guys.
They're not. And worse, they're selfish. They do not even represent the finest quality of humanity. And why are they our leaders?
Well, I was talking with one of our instructors about that a couple days ago. We've got, how did Bill Clinton get elected president? I mean, was he the best and brightest we could find? We heard that he was a Rhodes Scholar, and what a bright guy, and guy can't even figure out how to keep his zipper up. So we've got these guys who are poor speakers. They're not statesmen. They're not thinkers. They're not scientists. They're just defective. We'll be right back. Rick, here's a story I really enjoy.
Haven't done anything.
Now there's this Pembroke Pines police chief. His name is Dan Gustino, and he's frosted because he is demanded an apology from the Arby's, fast food joint CEO, Paul Brown. So why does he demand an apology? Well, one of his uniformed officers went through the drive-through in Florida in the Miami area called Pembroke Pines. And so his officer wanted to order at Arby's, and allegedly she was refused service because she was in uniform. So, so here we have, the manager of an Arby's store refusing service. It causes all this uproar. The police chief is frosted. He's demanding an apology from the corporate CEO because his policewoman was refused service. I think that's kind of neat that she was refused service. Now, she was not refused service because of her ethnicity, but because of what she was wearing, her police uniform. Now, I've refused service when I had a computer company as an officer of our computer company that I was an owner of. I refused service to an attorney who wanted to buy a computer network from us. And I said, we don't sell computers to attorneys. And the attorney's like, what? I said, yeah. It's because, well, you guys are trained to argue. You know, you're naturally good arguers, and then you go to school, and then you become certified in arguing. And generally, you find fault with everything. So no matter what I do, I don't think you're going to be happy. So it's just kind of, I prefer that, you know, we don't have any disputes. So I'm not going to sell you a computer network. He's like, you got to be kidding. I said, no, actually, we have a corporate policy. We don't sell computers to attorneys. He was absolutely shocked.
I went to that same place, and because of that, I chose not to wear a uniform. I walked in naked, and they wouldn't serve me either. I didn't want any trouble with uniform.
Well, you know, Rick, you know the story about Lebanon, Missouri, when the cops showed up, and I said, "Hey, listen, you guys can't come in here with uniforms," and they were annoyed. And actually, so what happened is the cops who came to the expo, you know, complained to the city manager, and then they declared war on USA Prepares. I'm talking about the city of Lebanon declared war on USA Prepares because we wouldn't let the cops come in uniform. And they said, "Oh yeah, we're the cops. We're going to do whatever the heck we want." And literally they showed us.
The firemen showed up and sat there and enjoyed storming Norman.
Yeah, well, yeah. The firemen were great. That, you know, the firemen didn't come in with guns, and they didn't come in and push their way.
No attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're seeing, Rick, is that cops are getting shot. They're getting just picked off. We said this was going to happen. We said that, you know, we're not advocating it. We said it would happen because of their bullying attitudes, them pushing us around, them targeting us with their laser guns and their radar.
And what do Arby's to do? Hang that individual that refused service from their flagpole?
Actually, if we had plaques,
would have worked, huh? Sitting there seeing that young girl that refused service to the officer hanging from a flagpole by her neck broken, hanging there in the wind. That's the apology they want. That's what it's creepy. And you know what else? It's posturing. And I've had enough of everybody posturing to try to get their way on things. It's a form of bullying. And that's exactly what it is. It's bullying by any other word, just like in high school and grade school, where they learned how to do it. And most of the people, the way Matt Stein put it to me, he said the kids coming back from Afghanistan, that some of them are gone into fanatical weightlifting because they like the adrenaline rush. And guess who are our top draft picks for police officers? And how do you think that's playing in the community? You know, we're talking about a war on drugs, and yet most of the police force are taking illegal drugs in the forms of steroids and muscle builders. And so we've got a situation here that has double standards. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. You know, you do not do what I do, but you do what I say.
Yeah, because I say it. You know, and you're absolutely right.
I do it because I say it. And there's a double standard going on across the world, including corporate and our politics across the board. That's what's wrong with America right now. And while here I am, not able to probably do anything. The way I was going to say it to my teacher is, are aliens real? There's nothing I can do about it. I probably will never even know the truth. I can tell you that yesterday I had a Brian Dean Anderson give me a presentation on JFK shooting, absolutely proving that JFK did not even die. He spent his last years on the Baltic. He's got pictures. Proves it. Now, where is that in our history books? And quote, you don't kill royalty. That is an unspoken law in all of the game planning that the Rothschilds, etc., are doing. And when you start to unravel that thread and pulling on it a little bit further to find out where LBJ was in all of this and the rest of it, what happens next is you start to unravel other things in history. 9/11, the first attack on the Trade Center didn't work, so now we're going to fake one so that we can get a terrorism bill through Congress. And everybody is buying it. And if you don't buy it, what can you do about it? You're going to change your vote? They already have that rigged. And we talked about that last week with the Democratic Party and Clinton and Hillary Clinton appointing her husband, as president of the United Nations. And now you have the most powerful couple in the world working for the Bushes. And it's we don't have any say in it. What can we do?
I was talking with Larry Nichols, who knows Bill Clinton quite well. And I was asking him, what Bill Clinton is like. And I'm paraphrasing the answer. But, he's a fun guy to be with. And he's, if you're at a party with him and he's telling stories, the answer is he's got more interesting stories than everybody else in the room. So you would tend to gravitate toward him because of, the outrageousness of the stories and the kind of stories that just don't happen to we the villagers. Okay, so you'd love to hang out with Bill Clinton and just laugh and yuck it up with him. But in terms of him being qualified to manage the most powerful nation on the planet at the time, was he qualified? Absolutely not. He just liked being president and governor because of all the perks, all the fun things you could do, all the junkets and the travel and the women and all that. That was a lot of fun.
Well,
so that's
in the White House and having it be okay with the public. It was okay. Everybody accepted it. How
not
does
me.
that work?
I know somebody who actually voted for him, and I couldn't believe it. And then they said, yeah. I'll tell you what, the media has worked really well with some of these thugs that we have in office. They really have. They've covered up things. And, Barney Frank is, allegedly running a bordello in Washington. And that's okay. Well, being queer is okay now. Actually, maybe it's a positive. It's a positive.
Don't forget to add pedophile in there. All of it is wrong. It's supposed to represent, like, what a treaty is. What exactly is a treaty between countries? Didn't we talk about this before? It's something to do with measuring the integrity of a given country and how well they will honor their word. The United States is an embarrassment to me. I'm embarrassed to be an American. This is no longer the country that I wanted to serve and protect. And it's time everybody get it, that nothing you're doing, if you voted for someone, the other person will win because they have gerrymandering and they use the whole thing in electoral services to appoint whom they want. And it's already a done deal, even before the elections. The straw polls, the people that go in and give you, there's a 43% favorable. Where does that come from? What is wrong now is that we're allowing this to happen without saying anything about it.
Larry Nichols said on the air on USA Prepares, he said that he was involved in polling. And they used to sit around in a room, and I'm talking in the in the 90s, the very early 90s, and in the 80s, and they'd sit around and they'd talk about how to form the questions to get the desired polling results. And then they decided that, why are we even doing this? Let's just come up with the results. We'll just state the results. So they made up the polling results, meaning there's no poll. They just released the results.
Just like, and it all happened, I was in the sciences. It all happened in the 70s and the 80s, because in the 70s, what made me an outstanding researcher was that I had no qualm about studying something. I had no idea what I was going to discover. It didn't have any kind of marketability to it. In the 80s, all of that stopped, and there was no interest in having mankind evolve technically after the 80s. It either had marketing aspects, in which case it was funded, or it wasn't, in which case it was not funded.
Yeah, Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that when we come back. I'm going to share something with you that will put an exclamation point on what you're saying. And this will probably be damaging to me, but I'll say it anyway. We'll be right back. So Rick, you mentioned the change from blue sky science in the 70s to what we've got today, which is, how much money can this science generate? So,
in other words, it's not about the evolution of man anymore. It isn't about trying to do new science and go. We've already got enough science. We don't need advancements anymore unless they deal with money.
All right. Well, let me put an exclamation.
George Garland, God has everything, but he needs more money.
Yeah. Let me put an exclamation. Let me put an exclamation point on this. So you're talking about marketing. So I called a solar equipment manufacturing company. I called the manufacturer, and I was on the phone with them, and we've been talking. And so at the highest level of this company, I was talking with one of the VPs, and he said, "Well, here's what I said I'd like. What I'd like to do is build a system on the air and explain how the system is being built and the components, the watts, the amps, the volts, Ohm's law. Start out with an overview and literally build it on the air and deploy it for the broadcast. I mean, I've already done a prototype, but I want to build the final system and or the next in the evolution of the prototype. I've got the solar panels and I've got an inverter and I've got some batteries. And I just want to make it more permanent." Okay, so I was talking to this guy, and he said, "Well, how many listeners do you have?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, how many do you have?" And I said, "Well, let me put it this way." I said, "If you go to gcnlive.com right now," I said, "You in front of a computer?" He said, "Well, I can't do it right this minute." Well, okay, well, if you go to gcnlive.com right now, you'll see that there are the top broadcasts. And we're number one. And by the way, I'm not even on the air. I'm talking to you. Okay, where it says top GCN live streams at gcnlive.com, they've got the top 5. I said, I've been off the air for a while now, and we're number one. I can tell you that. I know that because you can see it and I can see it. And I said, now, aside from that, we're on AM stations, FM stations. We're on a satellite over the United States and Canada and Central America. We're on the largest satellite in Europe with over 120 million homes being fed, and that services Europe and the Middle East and North Africa. We're on YouTube. We're on telephone listen lines, podcasts, downloads. So that I do know, but in terms of the number of listeners, I don't know, and actually nobody knows. Okay. Nobody knows how many AM, FM, and satellite listeners there are because it's a one-way transmission. Nobody knows. I said, now, you can look at the ratings and you can, and those are lies too. Those are lies. So nobody knows literally how many listeners. And I said, no. So if you're in your car and you're in the car for a couple minutes and you turn on the radio and you listen to a talk show host and then you arrive at your destination 3 minutes later, does that mean you're a listener? What if you're just listening to the commercials during that couple of minutes you're in the car? Or what if you turn on your radio and you leave and it's on at home and no one's listening because you're outside? So how do you know who's listening? You don't know. So I explained this to him. The bottom line is, without me telling him how many listeners we have, they will not work with us because he can't make a proposal to upper management to say, we want to have Sally over here go on the air with Vinny and talk about solar systems. But, we're going to have to pay Sally to be here, and with the phone call, and, there's the time and using the conference room, and geez, and then there's the setup and the preparation. So it costs us money to have us on the air with Vinny. So how many listeners do you have? I said, I don't know how to tell you. Honestly, I don't. I've been asking for 5 years how many listeners we have. No one can tell me. So I can't tell them. So they can't do it until I can tell them, and I can't tell them. So I guess we can't do it. Rick, you're absolutely right. It's all about money. It's disgraceful.
Yep.
What about What about just doing a nice thing? And what's wrong with a company teaching about solar, alternative energy, and we mention them like 4 times an hour? What's wrong with that? I don't get it. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. If you'd like to go to his website, DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com. Doc as in doctor, Ram as in Richard Allen Miller, DocRAM.com. Rick, during the previous hour, we were talking about marketing, and I wanted to share a very short story with you. When I was in California as an entrepreneur back in the early 1980s, we had developed satellite communications equipment where you could receive satellite television reception with these great big 10 and 12 foot parabolic dish antennas. And we developed a receiver and a down converter, and we had a patent pending on this new technology that our little 3-man company developed. And we developed a way of converting gigahertz frequencies that required heliax cable, which would be like really stiff garden hose size cable, down to RG58, RG59, which is what's commonly used today in cable TV systems. So it was a quantum leap in technology, and we developed it. I mean, it was our company that designed and developed and actually made prototypes and had a production model in operation. And we needed some money to buy the parts to make these down converters and satellite receivers. So we went to the local bank in Silicon Valley, and we had our branch manager, and he was our guy, and he was our contact, and he knew all about us and saw our business plan and toured our facility. He knew who we were. He knew our backgrounds. He knew our educational experience, and he he saw us starting out as a fledgling company, and he saw the progress and the development and the sales, and I mean, he had the inside information. And I remember being in a meeting with him and telling him about this technology. I was the CFO, Chief Financial Officer. I was with the president of the company, a brilliant engineer, and we were talking about this product, and we showed him, and we invented something really cool. I mean, it was revolutionary. It was incredible. It could take a problem that was really difficult. Imagine hooking up your PC to the internet with a garden hose that you needed a pipe bender to bend, and once you put it in place, you really couldn't move it because this heliax cable was not flexible. You need a pipe bender to bend this heliax cable. Well, imagine that being your Ethernet cable, and then compare that to the Ethernet cable that you have now, or the flexible power cord that you have now. That's the difference in technology that we developed. Well, so we're in this meeting, and he said, "Well, do you guys have any collateral?" And I'm thinking, are you kidding? We just invented the equivalent of anti-gravity, and you're asking us if we have collateral. That's marketing. That is business-based. If you can't show a 100% guarantee that this thing is going to work, we're not interested. That's one of the problems with America. We no longer have the blue sky that you were talking about. The science for science, just to find out.
For its own sake. For its
Right.
own sake, not about money. For the advancement of men's knowledge. For its own sake.
Yep. And you think about, you go back to the Manhattan Project, and it's like, we're putting a lot of money into this. Are you sure we're going to be able to destroy Japan? I mean, are you sure? Because, we're spending a lot of money here. Are you sure it's going to vaporize people? Because if it's not, we're going to pull a plug on it. I mean, how did we get to the point where we don't want to learn just for learning's sake?
Because somebody less smart than you decided there are too many people in the world, and because I have the ability to push a switch, I've decided to make our sky Auschwitz.
That's a really good point. It really is. It's instead of small ovens burning 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 at a time.
We can do the whole thing in one fell swoop.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
Rick,
exactly what is happening to all of us right now. My saliva is always white now. It's not green, it's not transparent or translucent. It's always white. Why is that? And here's the scary part. This fly ash and other compounds that are being put in our atmosphere have radioactive aspects to it that are more toxic than even plutonium. The reason plutonium is so dangerous is the half-life is so long. It lasts for hundreds of thousands of years. Radium isn't nearly as bad. However, radium is the one that killed Madame Curie. And here we are at the end of days.
You know, Rick, one of the things that I said to this marketing guy on the phone when he asked me how many listeners we had, you know, I kept telling him, I really, honestly, I don't know. I'd love to say how many we have. You know, I can say my mom listens, you know, and a few others, for certain, okay? I can say that, but really how many we have, I honestly don't know, and no one has ever been able to tell me. Even when I worked, when I broadcasted at a radio station in Springfield, they couldn't tell me. So the bottom line is we don't know. So what I said to him was, well, you know, you can go to TalkStream Live, and they have a ranking system. I don't know how many we have, how many listeners we have, but I can tell you we're somewhere in the, you know, top 25 most of the time. You know, during our second hour, you can look right now. It looks like we're number 27 or 20. Yeah, I think it's 27. You know, out of, and who are we going head to head with? Well, that would be Laura Ingraham and Glenn Beck and Herman Cain and Jesse Lee Peterson, Mike Gallagher, Imus, Bill Bennett, you know, Geraldo, Michael Medved. You know, those are the guys that are ahead of us. You know, below us, there's Bill Handel on the Law. Newsmax TV is below us. BBC NewsHour is below us. Yeah, I'm just trying to give a Diane Rehm in California is below us. The Huffington Post Live is below us. And you know, there's so many. There's so many that are below us. And you know, there's some above us too. But I can't tell them how many. I honestly can't. But I can show them pictures of these screens. But it's not enough. It's not enough because he needs to know how many. And all we're talking about is teaching a class on how solar energy works. So we are now at the point where money is driving everything, and you know, more proof of it is tickets. One of our neighbors was pulled over by the police, highway patrol, and he got a ticket for speeding. And yeah, our neighbor was speeding. And he told me he felt really good about it because it was reduced down to 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. And he was traveling faster than that. And so I said, I'm outraged. You know, why couldn't the highway patrolman given him a warning? You know, hey, you know, really, do you really need to go that fast? Because the next time, you know, I'm really going to have to give you a ticket. Because this was the first time. So he gets this ticket, and his insurance is going to go up 10% for 3 years. I mentioned this before. The whole point is the highway patrol could have done a nice thing and given him a warning. But no, he didn't, because I believe he's on a ticket quota system.
That's exactly.
More revenue.
Yeah, it's all
More
about
revenue.
money.
Now, if he went to court, which he doesn't want to do, I'd go to court. But if he went to court, he could, the judge would look at this and say, are you serious? You gave this guy a ticket for 5 miles an hour over the speed limit? Are you serious? Is that really what you did? So obviously the judge knows that no, that's really, he is giving this guy a break. But so now the highway patrolman is lying, right? Because that's not the speed he was going. He was going faster than that. Why didn't he, if he's going to lie, then why not give him a ticket for a loud muffler that won't increase his insurance costs? I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand how we got to the point where we are now, where they are all making a lot more money than we, the villagers, are making. And it's not enough. They have to make more. this ever expansive black hole of consumption of our wealth, meaning
Well, they got to
our
buy
wealth.
it more NRAPs at bargain prices. That's what they've got to do.
Yeah, and the bribes and the luxurious lifestyles. And you know, now these Wall Street thugs who have ripped people off on the movement up and the movement down of securities and the hedge funds, and all these guys are now talking about, you know, where they can find safe refuge from the villagers,
how
because
are we
we're
gonna
frosted.
stop this nonsense? What would be an individual listening to us on the radio? What could they do individually to stop this nonsense?
Well, here's what I'm doing. I'm voting with my wallet. For example, and we had this discussion at the meetup. Here's just one small example. One of the ladies who I really like at the meetup was telling me, you know, what a great offering McDonald's now has. I'm talking about McDonald's, the fast food joint. You know, for $5, you can get this new burger thing and fries and I think a drink. And she was saying, and it really tastes great. It's really, really good. And I said, and the whole meetup is listening to this. And I said, McDonald's? You know, the same company who's been selling food that bacteria won't even eat. That company, the company that you feel sick after you have it. The company, and I didn't go into all these details, but that same company that was known for poisoning us, now it's okay because they've got new items on the menu. It's okay. It's all absolved. The sins are absolved. That company. So for me, I'm not going to McDonald's. You know, I might if my eyes are watering from being on a long trip, I might duck in for a cup of coffee, but that's it. And that would be really an extreme emergency where, you know, there's no rest stop anywhere in sight, and that's the only place to, you know, or the only place that is reasonable if I'm on a long trip. Other than that, I'm not going to McDonald's. And I haven't, you know, if I spent $2 in the last 5 years at McDonald's, that'd be a lot. That'd be a lot. And that'd be for coffee, senior coffee. And if you go there, ask for senior coffee. But wherever you go, ask for senior coffee. I'm not saying go to McDonald's. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com, if you're interested in finding out more about his books and some of his brilliant writings. You can purchase them at DocRAM.com. Rick, you asked me about what can we do about the beast. Well, here's what I'm doing. So I don't have cable TV. I don't have satellite TV. Haven't had it for years. I'm not paying to listen to or watch commercials or this mindless, idiotic television programming. I'm not willing to do it. I don't have a cell phone anymore. I dumped my cell phone, so I'm not paying the tax plus the tax plus the tax plus the tax on the cell phone plan. I don't have it. Then I called CenturyLink, our telephone company, and I've been asking them for years for a loyalty reduction or a loyalty credit on my bill. And it used to be I'd call them once a year and they'd say, "Oh, we'll be glad. Mr. Finelli, thank you so much for being a loyal CenturyTel or CenturyLink customer. We're delighted to offer you a $10 discount every month." And that's been going on for years and years and years. But now they've improved it where I have to ask them for that same $10 every 6 months. So I still call them. And literally by calling them twice, which would be 2 5-minute calls, 10 minutes on the phone, I save $120. $10 a month. Then, let's see. License plates. You know, they have these license plate scanners. Well, I wanted to make sure that my license plates were fully reflective and could, you know, participate in the scanning program to keep me safe. And, you know, when I washed the car, I wanted to wash behind the license plates. I took them off and I let them dry in our driveway. Rick, you've seen our driveway. It's stone. It's crushed stone. It's really rough. I left them out. And do you know, somebody ran over my license plates. Didn't see them, I guess. Then ran over them again and again. And by the time the weekend was over, these things look terrible. Now, you know, I try to keep the car looking okay, but my license plates are now all banged up. And I'm not going to, you know, they're expensive, so I'm not going to buy new license plates. So I guess they still work. But they just don't work the way they used to. I use cash wherever I can. to remain anonymous. I shop on the internet and I buy things from small mom and pop companies. I get better prices and I am not supporting the beast. Like if I were to buy something in Springfield, Missouri, I'd be supporting the all the taxes that the merchants pay, the city, plus the sales tax, which is close to 8+%, depending on which block you're on. And so I'm trying to starve the beast. So those are just a few. Oh, O'Reilly. I used to, I have an account with O'Reilly. It's an auto parts store. Well, they used to have lifetime guarantees on the products, like the wheel bearing hubs, the crank position sensors, the electronic switches and things that you need that go bad, the belts and all that, the brakes, the disc rotors, the drums, all that used to have lifetime replacement on them. Well, they changed it. So you buy it with lifetime, and then they changed the warranty to 1 year, and you bring it back after it fails, and they go, well, it's out of warranty. Yeah, but it had a lifetime warranty. Yeah, but we changed it. They changed it midstream. So what do? I don't go to O'Reilly unless I absolutely, positively am stuck. Where do I go? Well, I go to AutoZone. And I went to AutoZone, and they said, we'll give you a commercial account. We'll give you lower prices than, you'd normally pay, and you'll get terms. So you get 30 days plus a 2% net 30 discount, plus we'll give you lower prices because you'll have a commercial account. We'll take care of you. So those are the kinds of things that I'm doing. I'm voting with my wallet, and the companies that change their terms, change their conditions, take advantage of their customers, poison us, I don't go there. That's how I'm doing it. What do you think?
I think that it's an uphill battle.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that, shortly, it will be a downhill battle, and barter will be the key like it is in Greece right now. I don't know this. I'm just watching how little my dollar buys today compared to last year at this moment. And Safeway, just the food. How much is food costing me this year over last year? I remember when rent was 50% of my income. 50% of my overhead. The other is food, eat, light, all of the rest of it. But now that's changing a little bit. As power, food come in.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing, Rick. I'm trying my best to get off the grid because I know the electric utility is going to keep raising rates, and I know they're monitoring my every move, and I know they try to do it with the cell phones. I'm not buying new appliances. If I have to buy an appliance, it's going to be a used appliance, and I've already bought used appliances, for $75 a piece and $50 a piece just to make sure we have the older models. DocRAM, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, DocRAM.com. Rick, we're talking about other things that we're doing. These are things that we're doing. Okay, we're not participating in. We're not calling in air conditioning and heating system people. We don't want them walking around our house with their maybe they have spy cameras, maybe they're recording, maybe they're taking pictures. We're not letting them in. As a matter of fact, there's a standing order at our house, not to let anybody in. Okay, we don't allow cell phones in the house. So we're not calling in plumbers. We're doing everything ourselves. We are learning how to do everything ourselves, and we've been doing plumbing for years and electrical wiring and so forth. We are not leaving things outside for the satellite perverts to track and count and take inventory of what we have. We're putting things inside. Those are just some of the things that we're doing here. So, don't leave your car outside. If you have a garage, put it inside. Put your equipment. If you have propane tanks, you might want to not leave them out. Imagine having a propane tank, a 20-pound cylinder, and having some government thug come over to your place and say, you've got this weapon of mass destruction. We saw it. We've got satellite proof that you have this weapon of mass destruction, this propane bottle. And you have two of them. One inside your grill and one outside. And we know what you're thinking. We know that you that you intend to use this to kill people. How far can they take these things? Well, I'm telling you that it's out of control. So I'm doing my best not to participate in any of these things,
You know,
including
when I
not.
when I first moved here to Oregon, there was a war going on between the local marijuana growers. This was when it was still illegal, against the local marijuana growers and the imports from the Mexican mafia bringing in Colombian. And I remembered that when you bought the cheaper marijuana from the Colombians, what you were doing was supporting a war effort going on in Colombia. Whereas when you bought local marijuana, you were basically helping some lady-toad make a land payment. And it is the system you invest in is the system that develops. And what made Walmart so bad was that all the money that you spent on household goods left the neighborhood. And it was money going out of the system and going somewhere else, Arkansas and then China. Now, it's about the systems you choose to work with, put your energy into, that develop and make those systems happen. And so, for what I do, I try to buy as much local as I can, whenever possible, even for slightly more money, because it turns out that even though it might cost a little bit more for that apple is going to get developed here, and it's not going to have anything to do with Washington or Mexico. And so I have always tried to go to farmers markets rather than a superstore. Superstores are bringing products in from all over the world, and so you have a diversity of choice, whereas the fruit that you could buy from a local grocery is always going to, bananas didn't grow here. Where did the watermelon come from, etc.? And so you should practice eating your environment. That's a good teaching thing. It has to do with macrobiology, climatizing your body to the local flora and fauna. And I'm just trying to, and I know that I'm not going to be able to make any kind of difference. However, when the board tell me that resistance is futile, there is a part of me that realizes that's most likely true, and yet, how to go to put it, my gun you may have, after I give you my bullets, I will.
And that's kind of, Rick, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Okay, if resistance is futile, they're probably going to say, gee, I wish this Finelli guy would just knock it off. I mean, he's just a pain. That's
why they have the local mafia out there trying to hammer you down with your communications and other kinds of things. And if
by the way, they were just hammering you, Rick. They were just hammering you with your communications. It's garbled, but we're gonna get through it. You talk about neighborhoods. Now, Walmart's got this title or this name that they put on some of their buildings, their stores, and they call it a neighborhood market. Now, that's supposed to indicate that this is your neighborhood, and this is what comes from the neighborhood that goes in these neighborhood markets. Walmart is pushing out the small businesses, and I literally try to, when I can, try to support the small businesses. Now, here's one of the problems. If we buy things that are taxed, like in Springfield, Missouri, and Lebanon, Missouri, and if we support those locations, that helps feed the machine. So I'm interested in not feeding that machine. So I try to find other places to buy things. I try to buy things directly from some guy that's selling it rather than buying it from a store that's selling it. So if I can buy new old stock, meaning something that's new that was produced years ago, I would rather buy that than buy a new one that has tax plus tax plus tax plus tax on it. That's how I'm trying to spend our money. Rick, we've got a caller on the line. Before we take that call, could you just tell us about scopolamine?
scopolamine. Well, this is one of the drugs I studied in the 70s. It is a propane alkaloid like atropine, hydroxyamine, and scopolamine. Now, what they are is they're not hallucinogens. They're actually massive depressants that do something else besides depress your body. And basically, most scopolamine is taken from Jimson wheat or the daturas out of the Soleanus family. It's a potato-like crop that grows in the Southwest. Now, what we did in our studies is we discovered that if someone was on Prozac or something equivalent like lithium, and they were either coming off that drug, and we hit them with scopolamine, now we had Shooter or Batman movie. That's how it works. And I'm going to guess that that's exactly what happened in that event, because the second shooter was probably a handler. Now, that's how it worked in Boston. I think that that's how scopolamine is used in a lot of different ways. It's not a truth serum per se. They have other kinds of drugs that work better, but scopolamine makes you crazy and hallucinate. It's a really, really terrible drug, and it's especially effective with people that are on or coming off of, Prozac. If you're bipolar and you are taking these drugs, or you stop taking these drugs and you're a couple of weeks off from not taking them, and you hit them. And they did a story on all the different shooters in different high schools. Every single one of them had been on lithium or Prozac, and then had scopolamine. That's how it works.
Rick, are you saying that, well, you didn't say this, but I'm asking, is it possible that this thing can be weaponized and make people do things that...
That is what it is. It is a weapon. It was developed in the 70s. It is a weapon. You can turn someone, not a Manchurian candidate, but close.
How
Making
fast...
you do things you would not otherwise do. Absolutely.
Is this the kind of thing that can be used as a defensive weapon?
No,
as well?
It's strictly a strike weapon where the person is crazy and has no concept of what it's doing at the moment it's doing it. Just
how fast does it work, Rick?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay.
It's fast. It's so fast, especially if someone's been on Prozac. Oh, Jesus. You have no idea what you can do with someone like that. You can turn them into a lethal weapon. Just like a Manchurian candidate. You want something to happen, you hit them with scopolamine. And by the way, that's just, a little needle in the back of the butt or in the back, where they stab you from behind.
So, Rick, are you saying that...
do it.
So are you saying that, let's say the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooter?
Absolutely. You can tell by looking at his face. They have a certain look when they're on scopolamine. Oh, yeah. That's why when I saw that and they had him in court with his red hair and the look on his face, that was somebody that was coming off of Prozac and then got hit with scopolamine. And he didn't do that intentionally. He used him as a weapon, not defense.
Mm-hmm. Mark in Pennsylvania, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. On the note of what Dr. Richard Allen Miller is saying, that's a control circuit. It's basically controlling. It's a way to control. And what you're talking about here with the consumerism, the marketing, and all of that, it's control. Now it looks like it's about money up front because these are businesses. They got to make some money, right? No. Notice what's happening. The corporations are buying up smaller companies, and consolidating, where we have fewer choices. And they also...
That's exactly right. It used to be, in our marketing system, you had best buy and cheapest. cheapest came from China.
Yeah, I'll hold.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com. Mark from Pennsylvania is with us. I'm Vince Finelli. This is USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back. Mark in Pennsylvania, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
I can now. Great.
Okay,
Please continue.
Okay, so just to let you know, Vincent, I am a divergent. I watched the movie for sure. So listen, what's happening here is a consolidation of power, and it's becoming more and more consolidated. Corporate, and on the face of it, it might look like different companies, but if they're a corporation, chances are they might be owned by the same company behind the scenes. Okay, and they're working from the same play game, the book. You know, they're playing out of the same book, the game plan, to frustrate us. Try to get recourse with the government. We understand that, but try to get recourse now with one of these corporations. They send you a bill, you can't decipher it, and they're all the same. You know, so I say part of the solution is to teach people how to say no, especially to corporations of any size, especially the bigger ones, preferably. But to say no, to start practicing saying no. If you have a problem with the company you do business with, you call them up and say, "Look, I'm having a problem, and I expect you to do something about it," or don't do business with them. And
all right, Mark, hold on just 1 second. I suggest all of our class today call all the companies that have repetitive services. So if you have like the internet, or if you have some other kind of service where you pay by the month and they bill you, call them up and tell them that you want, you're thinking about not staying with them. You'd like a loyalty discount, and you'll get it. You'll get it. So that's one way to start. And so everyone can probably save $120 or at least $60 with a 5-minute phone call. So be polite and just say, I think I'm paying too much and it's really hard to justify this. So what can you do to help me? Can you help me? And they probably will. Wow. 2 hours really went fast. Mark, do you have any comments in 15 seconds?
Well, just say no. When you have a chance, say no. Get aggravated. If you can't say no, your yeses don't mean anything.
Good point. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. Rick, any quick comments? We got 10 seconds.
I'm good for the day. Well, for this part of the day anyway.
Hey, Rick, thanks so much for being with us.
My
Rick
pleasure.
Miller, DocRAM, DocRAM.com. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. And start saying no right now.